Australia's Labor Party is celebrating victory in national elections, ousting the governing Conservatives from power. Prime Minister-elect Anthony Albanese has promised to put tackling climate change at the top of his agenda. It was a key issue in the vote after Australia suffered devastating floods and bushfires in recent years.
A celebration that marks the end of almost a decade of Conservative rule. Australia has elected a new Prime Minister in Anthony Albanese, the leader of the centre-left Labor Party.
Tonight, the Australian people have voted for change. I am humbled by this victory, and I'm honoured to be given the opportunity to serve as the 31st Prime Minister of Australia.
The new Prime Minister has vowed to tackle corruption and turn Australia into a renewable energy superpower. With the country still reeling from a series of devastating floods earlier this year, climate change proved to be a decisive issue at the polls. The incumbent Conservative Liberal Party lost seats to Labor across the country. But their biggest challenge came from a rising group of independent candidates who focused their campaigns around climate action and cracking down on corruption. The outgoing Prime Minister Scott Morrison conceded defeat and announced he is stepping down as leader of the Liberals.
I've always believed in Australians and their judgment, and I've always been prepared to accept their verdicts. And tonight they have delivered their verdict, and I congratulate Anthony Albanese and the Labor Party, and I wish him and his government all the very best.
With votes still being counted, the new Prime Minister has not yet secured the 76 seats needed to achieve an outright majority. And with almost half of Australia's 17 million voters casting their ballot by post, it may be weeks until the final result is known.
Journalist Max Walden is in Melbourne. I asked him how Australia's Prime Minister-elect plans to act on his campaign promise to tackle climate change.
Well, the Labor Party has shared the previous Liberal Party government's target of zero net emissions by 2050. It has said, though, that by 2030 it will aim to reduce emissions by 43%, and it proposes to do this through a package of measures that it has valued at almost $700 million. Given, though, as your report noted, that there has been a big wave of independents that are very passionate about climate change elected into the parliament, along with some more members of the Greens, it's likely that these targets will likely be pushed to be more ambitious by people sitting on the crossbench.
And what does Albanese's win mean for Australia's role on the world stage?
Well, the timing's very interesting, of course, because on just this week, Albanese is supposed to be going to Tokyo, where he'll meet with the other leaders of the so-called Quad grouping, that is along with the US, Japan and India. And, you know, this grouping, of course, is sort of not openly, but everybody knows, is sort of there to try and offset the influence in the region of China. But it is interesting, on Monday he will swear in 5 MPs into the cabinet, including Malaysian-born Penny Wong, who's long served as the shadow foreign minister. Now, she will be Australia's first ethnically Asian foreign minister, which I imagine will be viewed very positively within the region.
Just wondering, you know, looking at him setting up his government, how much of a challenge would it be to go about his policies, whether his party runs alone or with other parties?
Yeah, so at the moment, the full composition of the House of Representatives is still unclear. It will probably be a few days before we really have the confirmed official results. Given a record number, I think it was 2.7 million postal votes. Now, will take a few days to count this. So in terms of, you know, the exact makeup of the parliament, whether the government is sitting in a minority or has a majority of the parliament, that of course will shape its ability to sort of execute its own policies or need to negotiate with these so-called teal independents and indeed these new Greens members of Parliament.